clergy and members of the public. And I want to thank you for coming to support this legislation. This legislation, as Stuart Applebaum, who has been a leader of this fight, just said, this legislation says that if millions of dollars, our dollars, are spent on public projects, those projects should provide jobs that provide at least a minimum standard. We don't pay taxes to only enrich big developers and leave behind the workers. Right. Let me say that all over, not only this city, but all over this country, everyone is crying out against inequality, against disparities between the rich and the poor. The living wage bill is a small step, but an important step at reducing those disparities between the richest and the poorest. And we should be ashamed if we don't pass that bill in the city council. Because this fight started over the Kingsbridge Armory, where we said no, the related company should not get millions of our dollars without guaranteeing that the people who work at the Kingsbridge Armory will earn a living, decent wage. What is $10 an hour? It's barely enough to survive, and that's all we're asking for at this time. And we will not rest until we have a living wage in all projects supported by
Fair wages now! Fair wages now!
Buenas tardes.
Buenas.
I am Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. I'm here humble to thank each and every single one of you, the men and women in clergy, the men and women in labor, my good friend Stuart Applebaum, those of you who are here by the hundreds, if not the thousands this evening, supporting us in the Bronx and throughout the city of New York with that little fight that started in what I call God's country, the borough of the Bronx. This fight started because in the Bronx over the last 8 to 10 years, we've seen billions and billions of dollars in private and public investment, and yet we are still number one in poverty in every county in the state of New York. How do we reconcile that? The fact of the matter is that here in the city of New York, we can't continue to do business as usual. The mayor and this administration plan to address poverty has simply failed, and something has to be done. They can't say, you can't tell us what to do with our business, but yet give me taxpayer money.
Bye.
You can't have it both ways. They would not only have it so that we don't have a living wage, many of these folks want us to go back to the days of sweatshops. While they vacation in San Tropez, while they eat their caviar in their skyboxes, and watch their football teams play against other football teams. This is not the way to go, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. We are here. We are here in the spirits of our heroes, Dr. King, Cesar Chavez, and Mr. Mayor. What we're saying is, be in the spirit of one of your heroes, Mayor LaGuardia. A man whose mission in life was to help the masses, not the classes. A man whose rallying cry was no goals for millionaires. Simply put, if you want a charity, then you have to be charitable. Brothers and sisters, damas y caballeros, if nothing else, while we're here in this historic church, that we know that we're not afraid because what we're doing is God's work. And if you don't believe it, then just turn to the scriptures. You can turn to the book of James, chapter 5, verse 4, which reads, look, wages you fail to pay the workmen who mow your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvester have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. We have the Lord on our side. We have God on our side. We have each other. After all,
Yeah, thanks, Ruben. Good evening, Riverside. Good evening, Living Wage Coalition.
Good evening.
I am humbled to be before you and before all of our venerable clergy, our fellow colleagues in government, to talk about what's actually been talked about so intensively for weeks and months now. That the direction of our economy is heading in the wrong direction.
That's right.
That we have chronic unemployment hovering around 9% in the country as well as in the city of New York. And that those statistics don't even count the thousands of people who have just given up and are not even looking anymore. We have an economy that continues to diverge.
Once again, go in front of the city council for the second alrededor de la nación y la
around the
ciudad.
nation and the city.
Decimos que estamos con ustedes.
We say that we are with you.
Now, we come from a group
Venimos de un grupo
that they often say is on the wrong side of
que
things.
usualmente está en la línea errónea de las cosas.
They say that evangelicals are often on the wrong side of things.
Dicen usualmente que los evangélicos no están donde deberían estar.
But I want the news and I want the unions and I want the church to know
Quiero que las noticias y las uniones y que la iglesia entera sepa.
there are some new evangelicals rising.
Hay unos nuevos
And we're going to be on the right side of history
y
here.
nosotros vamos a estar en el lado correcto de la historia.
Now, I'm a Pentecostal minister
Nosotros somos ministros pentecostales
trained at Union Theological Seminary.
entrenados en el seminario de Union.
I'm not confused, I'm just integrated.
No estoy confundido.
They gave me 4 minutes.
Me dieron 4 minutos.
For a Pentecostal, that's a preface to a prayer. Why are we here?
¿Por qué estamos aquí?
¿Por qué estamos aquí?
Why are we here?
¿Por qué lo hacemos en 2 idiomas?
And why do we do this in 2 languages?
Porque lo queremos que ustedes nos oigan en estéreo.
Because we want you to hear us in surround sound.
We are here
Estamos aquí
because we've seen this before.
porque hemos visto esto antes.
Anybody who's read the Bible
El que ha leído la Biblia
has seen this before.
ha visto esto antes.
In the book of
En
Exodus,
el libro de Éxodo,
whether you're Muslim, you're Jewish, or you're Christian,
musulmán, judío o cristiano,
that first chapter is this same story.
este primer capítulo es esta misma historia.
Now I got a couple minutes, so don't go.
Tengo 2 minutos.
Exodus 1 says
Éxodo 1 dice
that there was a new administration
que había una administración nueva
that had amnesia about the work of Joseph.
que tenía mesa
I see you, sister. And they said,
y nos dijeron,
we don't recognize that labor.
no reconocemos esa labor
And they exploited labor.
y explotaron la labor.
Back in Exodus, it was called
En Éxodo se llamaba
less straw, more bricks.
menos paja, más ladrillo.
Say it with me.
Dilo conmigo.
Less straw,
Menos paja,
more bricks. But there were some midwives.
había unas parteras.
Say with me, midwives.
Parteras.
We're here
Estamos aquí
because all of us,
porque todos nosotros,
Jewish,
judíos,
Christian,
cristianos,
Muslims,
musulmanes,
atheists,
ateos,
agnostic,
agnósticos,
Protestant,
protestantes,
Catholic,
católicos,
we're not going to stand
nos vamos a quedar
for less straw
por menos paja
and more bricks.
y más ladrillo.
We got one thing to say.
Tenemos una cosa que decir.
Are there any midwives in the house? And what does a midwife do?
¿Qué hace una partera?
She says,
Ella dice,
push. So today and tomorrow, you want to say?
But right here, this is New York City, and there are things that we can do ourselves to ensure that that widening wealth gap starts to get closed. And this living wage bill is absolutely a part of that. And it's simple, and it's been said already, but I'll say it again, that we're just simply asking companies who do business with the city, when they get millions of taxpayer dollars for their projects, and they promise jobs in return, all we're demanding is accountability that those jobs are actually created, and
That's
that
right.
we're given a chance to get those jobs. And that when those jobs are created, that there is some standard for those jobs. Standard that provides a living wage, that provides some modicum for New Yorkers to get out of poverty level jobs. That's all we're asking for here. When developers and private companies get those subsidies, we have every expectation that those jobs that are created are actually good paying jobs. And that's what this living wage legislation is. I congratulate the City Council for holding its hearings tomorrow. I look forward to the prompt passage of this legislation that is long overdue and absolutely necessary, especially in these very difficult economic times. Don't let them say that this is going to kill jobs. That's just rhetoric at its worst. In fact, this bill will do nothing to create job loss, as some of those naysayers would say. In fact, this will only make sure that there are some standards in the jobs that are created, especially when taxpayer subsidies are involved. Thank you very much for the television. Thanks for being out here. We're going to leave you out here even more so. Thank you. Good night.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Buenas noches.
Buenas.
I'm Council Member Melissa Martinelito, and I am co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. I am co-vice chair of the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus, and I'm a proud sponsor of the Fair Wages for New Yorkers Act.
That's the one I was trying to get at. Yeah,
I have to say that from this view over here, this
Yeah.
site is impressive, beautiful, and inspiring. If you look to your left, if you look to your right, if you look behind you, if you look above you, what we have here is a united voice for justice, for equity, and it's a moral imperative that we as a city act and do what is right.
Weapons of mass
destruction.
Somebody ought to do something, and somebody ought to do it tomorrow. Isn't it sad that we live in the richest country in the world,
Yes.
and yet the poverty level yet rises? My brothers and sisters, don't let a Coach bag or Louis Vuitton kid make you think that everything is all right.
That's right.
With swollen bellies, not from being full, but from being hungry.
Yes.
And I come by tonight to tell us that somebody ought to do something. And I come tonight as a voice of the drum major to say, if we can just help somebody as we travel along, then our living shall not be in vain.
Yes.
Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there.
Yeah.
And if you don't do something to help somebody, you're going to be on a different train on a different road. But I'm so glad tonight that you have an opportunity tomorrow to make sure that you do something to help somebody else. May God bless you and march on, fight on, love on. But most of all, remember the words of the Master called Christ. He said, as much as you've done unto me, you've done to the least of my little ones. When I was hungry, you wouldn't feed me. When I was naked, you wouldn't clothe me. I I was without shoes. You gotta offer me sandals. But I know that New York is gonna come together, aren't we? And we look at somebody and say, we're gonna do something.
Whether retail workers with the Retail Action Project, parents, college graduates who can't find a good job, or students who can't afford to continue their education, we're all here speaking out for you and with you. This Thanksgiving, I'm giving thanks for the power of our collective voices, because I know that together we can make a difference, and we can better our children's future. Many things have changed since King's time, but unfortunately many have not. We still don't have a living wage in New York City. So with that said, mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Today we stand together.
Today we stand together.
We will not back down until
our
hard work is recognized.
Our hard work is recognized.
And the living wage bill is passed because.
And the living wage is passed because. I believe
that we can.
I believe that we can.
I believe that we can win.
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 I believe that we can win. Woo!
Thank you, Reverend Chapman. Thank you, Kim Ortiz. To deliver the sermon tonight is Reverend Dr. Jesse T. Williams, Jr., Senior Pastor of the Convent Avenue Baptist Church. Reverend Williams is at the center of our broad coalition and played host to our pre-Martin Luther King event earlier this year. Please give it up for Reverend Dr. Jesse T. Williams.
tomorrow, I will occupy City Hall.